Welcome to the Author Alchemist podcast. I'm here to make your writing magic happen. I'm going to teach you how to use your superpowers to ignite, inspire, and encourage your creativity so that you can turn lead into gold. Join me, Kimber York, as I delve into the many mysteries of inspiration, motivation, and imagination. Welcome to the inaugural podcast of the Author Alchemist. I'm super excited to finally get this project off the ground. It's been a long time coming. I have a lot of great ideas of podcasts that I'm going to be doing in the future. And I'm just so glad that you're here with me on this journey to get it started. The whole point of this podcast, in fact, the whole point of my coaching business, is to inspire writers, to ignite your creativity, and to motivate you to get you to write. There are a lot of guides out there about how to be a good writer, the technique, the grammar skills you need to know, the construction and story structure. That's all out there. I can guide you to those sources if you want, but what I'm really here to do is to help you find the gumption to just sit down and write. I know how hard that is. I know that sometimes it's wrapped up with shame and insecurity, fear of judgment, fear of being made fun of, or just fear of what's in our own brains sometimes. Brains are screwy things, aren't they? And that can all inhibit our ability to write the stories that live inside of us and really want to get out. I'm here to help you with that. I'm here to encourage you and help you move into your writing career. Whether it's an amateur or professional, doesn't matter. It's still something that I'm here to help you with. So every week we're going to do what I call an alchemical lesson, and it's going to be a topic that pertains to motivation or inspiration, occasionally to writing technique, but less often. And so I thought I would start out this podcast series with a bang and talk about every writer's greatest fear. Are you good enough? Yeah, that's right. I went there. Are you a good enough writer to be writing at all? Did that give you chills? It does me. I mean, I'm a professionally published author, and I've been a copywriter, and I've been a documentation writer. I have written so many things over the years, and I still wonder in a cold sweat, am I good enough? We all have these fears of inadequacy, and sometimes they just completely derail us, keep us from writing at all, much less finishing projects that we half-heartedly start. It's a real fear. I don't think there's any writer I've ever met, I've ever known, who didn't suffer from this fear. Totally real. Don't judge yourself for having it. Well, and I'm here also to give you some both good and bad news. All right, so let's start with the bad news. When will you be good enough? Never. You will never be good enough. And I should qualify by saying you will never feel like you're good enough. There's going to be plenty of times that people are going to come to you and say, I loved your writing. I loved your story. It meant so much to me. And you're just going to be standing there going, why? Because as writers, we underestimate ourselves. So no, you will never feel good enough. But the good news is, whether you feel good enough, you feel like you're ready, you feel like you match up to the writers that you admire most. The good news is that you already are good enough. You can start right now. I promise you. But I know, me telling you that's not going to get us very far, is it? So, how do we confront that fear and work through it? I'm going to get a little philosophical on you, so stick with me. The heart of it is that fear cannot be escaped. You can't run away from fear. You can't hide from it. You can't compartmentalize it for a little while, but it'll come back. Brain is really good at being tricky like that. It'll always come back. So if you can't escape it or hide from it, what can you do? Well, you can manage it. And that's what we're going to talk about now. I always return here to the old saw. Bravery is not the absence of fear, but doing what you fear despite the fear. Actually, I first heard that one from my father, who was a pilot in World War II, a recon pilot, reconnaissance pilot. So he flew into battle zones without any kind of armament or weaponry. He flew his plane in full of cameras and film, and that was it. And then he had to take the photographs and get back out. And I remember being a young girl, and I was like, "Oh, but Papa, didn't that make you scared?" And he was like, "Honey," because he always called me honey. He's like, "Honey, sometimes you just gotta feel the fear and do it anyway." I always remembered that. Didn't always apply it, but I always remembered it. And then I found out it was a saying that's been told through many cultures over many millennia. Bravery is not the absence of fear. Bravery is doing the thing despite the fear. And that's what we have to internalize as writers. And for us, this can hit us at various levels. Like there's the writing itself, right? So sitting down with a blank piece of paper, or a blank notebook, or a blank screen on your word processor, that's just scary. Sometimes when you get started writing, that fear goes away, but that hump of putting down those first few words, that is scary. It is very scary. And then once you actually get through that, well, then you have to go back and do the editing. Right? Some people are more scared of editing than others. Editing has an intrinsic layer of criticism wrapped up in it. So you're scared that whoever is doing the editing, even yourself, is going to be very critical of what you've written. "Oh, this sucks. This is terrible." Bleh. So that's a fear too. And it's one we have to get over because all writing needs editing. Period. I don't care who you are. You need to be edited. Your work needs to be gone through for mistakes, clarity, inconsistencies, the whole shebang. So once you get through writing, that fear, and then the fear of editing, then you have the fear of sharing. Now, if your goal is to write things that are just in your personal journal or write stories just so that you can have them, or even just to write stories about your family history so that they're there on the record and, nobody will discover them until after you die, that's fine. But most writers, and I think the writers that I'm speaking to the most here, want to share our stories. We want people to read them. We want people to enjoy them too, but most importantly, we just want to get the stories out there. We want to get what we have in our heads out there in the big wide world so that people can enjoy the stories or learn from them or cry about the characters with us. That's so important, and it is so terrifying. So writers, we just don't have a single fear. We have at least 3. And that's not counting all the many sub-fears that every step of the process can bring up for us. So when you're trying to write and you're not writing, I'm going to ask you to stop for a second and really identify that fear. And it's almost always fear. I think personally, my belief is most writer block is about fear, but debatable. That's my thought, and I'm going to stick with it. So just hang with me for now while I talk it out. Find the fear and identify it. Are you scared that your writing will be, immature? Or are you scared that you're going to write about things that embarrass you? Are you going to write things that you wouldn't want your parental units to read? Are you going to write about things that are just too revealing for you and make you feel vulnerable? Do you fear that your writing is not going to match up to the superstar writer you admire most? Identify that fear. Think about it. Meditate on it. Pray over it. There's a lot of ways of engaging your mind with that fear, but acknowledging it is a powerful, positive step forward. That is how you can approach your fear and do the thing anyway. You've got to confront it. Can't run from it, my friends. If you could, I would totally tell you to do that if it worked, but it doesn't. And I'm saying it from experience. You've got to work through it. Identify it, confront it, accept it. Know that your fear is there. Acknowledge it and be honest with yourself. Fear is legitimate. You can't say, "Oh, that's a silly thing to be afraid of." No. It's totally okay to be afraid of that thing. What's not okay is to let that fear stop you from writing. So, again, repeating for you, just so you can write it down or make a mental note of it. Acknowledge it, confront it, work through it. You can do this. Totally believe in you. But if you want to write those stories that are running like wild, crazy things up in your head, that's what you need to do. One of the things I talk about in my Bulletproof Writer series, which is a free course that you can sign up for by going to my website and signing up, just give me your email and I'll shoot this 14-part free intensive writing course to you about overcoming your fears and learning to become a bulletproof writer. One of the stages in that course is what I call the super shield metaphor. Bulletproof Writer uses superhero metaphors and analogies to try to help you use your own personal superpowers to overcome your writer's block or your fear of writing. And the super shield is one that addresses your fears and your concerns about trying to start doing this incredibly powerful and compelling thing that you want to do, which of course in our case is writing. And the thing is, the shield is bravery, right? Bravery only protects you and only gets you so far if you actually engage in the battle. You gotta go into the quagmire in order to be shielded from the danger. It's kind of counterintuitive. Wouldn't you be safer if you just never went into battle? Absolutely. I'm not going to say that's not true. Your life would be infinitely safer. You would be less vulnerable. You'd be less prone to anxiety, shame, embarrassment if you never wrote a word. If you're listening to this podcast, I'm assuming that's not how you want to live your life. You want to write. You've got to get into the thick of things. You've got to hold up that shield, confront your fears, go into battle and write those words. Put something on that page, put something in that screen, in that open window, whatever you're using. You've got to fill it up. Fear is going to try to stop you. Resistance is going to try and stop you. Don't run from that. Don't go screaming from the field of battle. March up with your shield held high, confront your fears, and start writing. And if you can, think of your shield as your goals or your family support network, your spiritual practice, even your pet. Your shield is the thing that is going to help you confront those fears, right? So the alchemical lesson this week is that no matter what you imagine as your shield, and no matter what your fears are, you can win this battle. Grab your shield, hold it up high, and start writing. So thank you for listening to the inaugural podcast of The Author Alchemist. I again encourage you to go to my website and sign up for my Bulletproof Writer course, which is free. Just give me that email and I'll start sending you the modules for that course right away. I hope you will enjoy it. If you like it, then let me know. I'm always open to comments and even criticisms. Big fear of mine, but yeah, I'll take it. Also, just be aware I'm working on some programs that are going to be for sale soon. Things like Fanfiction Academy, which is a multi-part series that's going to help you both get the courage to write, figure out how to improve your writing, face your fears. It's going to be great. I'm really excited about it. I'm having fun writing it too. So some of you know fan fiction is a big part of my life, and we'll be talking more about that in podcasts to come. So please rate this podcast on iTunes or wherever your favorite podcasting source is. Give me some 5 stars, give me some traction. It'll really help keep this series going and getting the word out to other people. And believe me, I can use all the help I can get. Thanks for listening. Have a great, productive week full of inspiration, motivation, and creativity. Talk to you next time. Thank you for listening to the Author Alchemist podcast. I'm Kimbu York, and I hope this episode has helped to clear away the cobwebs from your inspiration and given you the power to write the stories you want to read. For more podcasts and other tools, please visit my website at www.authoralchemist.com or email me at kimbu@authoralchemist.com. I'd love to read your questions and feedback. Now, it's time for us to get some writing done. Talk to y'all soon.